The Lemonade Car Show is sponsored by OMVIC, Ontario's vehicle sales regulator.
I'm Georgini, and welcome to the special edition of the Lemonade Car Show. I'm here at the headquarters of OMVIC, the Ontario Motor Vehicle Industry Council, and our guest today is Tim Hines. Tim is the Director of Complaints and Inquiries at OMVIC.
Yeah, thank you, George.
So welcome, Tim.
Thanks very much.
So how do you get to be a Director of Inquiries at OMVIC?
My journey was a little interesting, I guess, in the sense that I actually started in the automotive field. I was a salesperson, a registered salesperson.
So you worked on the other side?
I did. I started on the other side. I graduated from McMaster University with a sociology degree. Sold cars for a couple of years. Started actually as a teenager. My mother was in the industry and worked on the lot, cutting grass, washing cars, doing whatever.
So second generation?
A little bit, yeah.
Wow,
yeah.
Cool.
So, but wanted a chance to use the degree that I had obtained from university, and was excited when I saw an ad in the paper for a job with the Ontario Motor Vehicle Industry Council, which was fairly new at the time.
And what was that position?
So I started out in the position that I now direct.
Wow.
In between, I worked in a few other departments, but started out as a person who fielded calls from primarily in the beginning, in our early years, from consumers who encountered problems with cars and needed some advice or needed some help, and would provide that advice and offer that assistance where I could, and at times would even reach out to dealers and try and negotiate sort of settlements between them and help them both sort of stay out of court.
Were dealers surprised sometimes to understand you actually knew how the business worked? They figured that maybe you're like a clerk in a government office, or?
I think it was welcomed most times. I think the fact that I sort of had sort of sense of the car language and understood things from the other side actually made my life in many ways much more easy. Helped break down some of those barriers as opposed to being maybe a bit perceived as a stuffy bureaucrat or something like that.
I know when I visit car makers, because of course they have customer service call centers, stuff like that, it's considered a very tough job. They'll tell you 2 years, and if you haven't got promoted out of there, you're looking for something else.
It's a challenge every day. Yeah, it's not for everybody. I mean, I think you have to have a certain amount of empathy and be able to put yourself in other people's shoes. You have to put yourself in a consumer's shoes, which is easy to do because we're all consumers who buy things every day. But you also have to put yourself in the shoes of the car dealer, which again, for me, having been in the industry and know how difficult that job can be, wasn't as difficult for me as maybe it is for others who don't have that experience.
Can you tell us some crazy stories? Everybody wants to know, like, what are the real complaints? Give us some.
Listen, I think when you look back on a career that now spans over 17 years for me here at OMVIC, yeah, you encounter all kinds of crazy things. I was an inspector for a little while on the road, and I was in a car dealership and was accosted by a pig. That happened one time when I was an inspector. Working in the inquiries department and the complaints department, I think, looking back, you certainly have tough customers sometimes on both ends, whether it's consumers or dealers. The stories I like to remember the most are where we were able to help people and really take a challenging situation.
So feel good.
Those are the ones that I like the most. And I know I remember early on, I took a call and had a consumer who had a pretty raw deal from a car dealer. That dealer ended up, through not just my efforts, but through other efforts as well, ended up being out of the industry because of some of the complaints that we fielded, and because they didn't deal with it the way that they should have. I stayed with that consumer for a couple of years, right up until the point that they had to make a claim to our motor vehicle compensation fund.
Wow.
And was there the day.
So you're like their car therapist.
And I actually covered and did the comp fund administration for a maternity leave and got to hand that person the check. So I literally went from beginning to end. So those are some of my favorite sort of memories of being here.
Common customer mistakes?
Common customer mistakes. There are quite a few. First and foremost, make sure you read through everything that you put a signature to.
Impossible, Tim. There's like tons of paperwork. Sign here, sign here, sign here, sign here. Oh, and by the way, the warranty, you're only going to get it after you, I can't give you a warranty because they're numbered.
Right.
I'm only giving you the pamphlet. So how realistic? I've seen that all the provincial regulators say you should read everything.
Yeah.
I know when I shop, I can't do it.
Yeah, I think where I see the biggest pitfalls aren't on sort of these fine printy things. It's the major stuff. It's things like, I'll give you an example today. A real prevalent problem we see is negative equity. We want new cars and we want things, and we haven't finished paying for what we've paid for previously. And just being able to understand that debt doesn't go away, and being able to follow that on your contract and sort of follow some of the big things. Do the mathematics. Take the monthly payment, times it by the 72 months or however long your term is. Look at that number before you sign on the dotted line. It'd be really, really simple messages like that. I agree with you. These are complex contracts, financial tools, leasing instruments. I can't expect a layperson to understand them in the way that I sort of invest a lot of time and energy in them. But it's the simple stuff. Track the cost of the car. Don't be what we sometimes call a monthly payment junkie and be stuck on that. And in the same vein, price point isn't necessarily the best deal. The cheapest car almost never is the best deal. The best deal is a properly reconditioned car, which means you might pay a little bit more. You want to know what the dealers are offering in terms of services or guarantees or warranties or things like that on the car. These are all things that add real value to what you're buying.
Well, thank you. It's time for a short break. When we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with Tim Hines, Director of Complaints and Inquiries at OMVIC.
The Lemonade Car Show is sponsored by OMVIC, Ontario's vehicle sales regulator.
Okay, class, here's your chance to show what you've learned. Top 4 answers on the board. Here is your question. Name a right or advantage a buyer has when purchasing a vehicle from an OMVIC registered dealer.
Great consumer protection.
Top answer on the board. Nice job, Ling. Do you want to play or pass?
Oh, we'll definitely play.
Okay, Timmy. Name a right that you have when purchasing a vehicle from a registered dealer.
Free fuzzy dice to hang from the mirror.
Fuzzy dice? Back to you, Lee.
When you buy from a registered dealer, another thing you get is all-in priced advertising.
Good answer. Show me all-in price advertising. Yes. Okay, Timmy, take 2.
I'm gonna have to go with free coffee at the dealership.
Free coffee! Hey, champ, I bet those answers were in the top 50. Looks like it's all on you, Ling.
When buying from a registered dealer, another thing you're entitled to is full disclosure of vehicle history and condition.
Let me see. Full disclosure! Okay, Timmy. It all comes down to this answer. Perhaps it has something to do with OMVIC's
companion program, partnering you up with like-minded passengers.
Show me OMVIC's companion program. Ellen and Justin, this round can be yours. If you can tell me one more right to buying a vehicle from a dealer registered with OMVIC.
Well, a lot of people think that there is that 48-hour cooling off period after a purchase where you can change your mind, but that's actually not true.
Yes. So our answer for number 4 is having access to OMVIC's compensation fund should something go wrong.
Good answer. Show me access to OMVIC's compensation fund. We have our winners! How sweet is this victory?
Amazing.
I want a new partner next time.
Please don't tell my mom about this.
I'm gonna tell your mom.
How about you, Justin?
Well, I feel pretty confident buying a car from a dealer. But, sir, this Saturday,
Yes?
I have an appointment to possibly buy a used car from a private seller.
A private seller? How will Justin prepare for a private seller? Does OMVIC even protect private purchasers? Tune in next time to find out. Same OMVIC time, same OMVIC channel.
The Lemonade Car Show is sponsored by OMVIC, Ontario's vehicle sales regulator.
Welcome back to this special edition of the Lemonade Car Show. I'm here with Tim Hines, Director of Complaints and Inquiries at OMVIC. Tim, for a customer who has bought a vehicle and maybe has some questions, how does it actually work? How does one get in touch with OMVIC?
So the phone obviously is busy every day here. We also have an online complaint form, a formal form that you can fill out. It asks for quite a bit of information, so if you'd rather just send us an email, we have a direct email account as well, but we're happy to take people that come in. If they're close enough to our offices and want to come in and meet with us, we'll meet with them. We meet with a few people every day in person, probably, on average.
How many calls a month, let's say, would you take, or how many inquiries a month?
So we've seen a sharp rise in the number of calls that we're getting. Since 2014, it's probably up almost, we're closing in on about 50%. We maybe take almost 30,000 calls a year now.
Wow. Is that because the industry is getting worse, or because you're getting better known?
I think it's because people are starting to understand who OMVIC is through shows like this, and the word about OMVIC is out. Years ago, the number one way people found out was through government. Today, it's friends or family. We have those kinds of statistics. So when they want to get in touch with us, we absolutely want to make it the easiest way possible for them to get in touch with us. From there, we can obviously help them with whether it be some self-help advice, which is a lot of times where we start.
Like what percentage is just information? So I'm calling because I want to know, but not necessarily because I want to complain about something. I just need to know.
Yeah, it's probably starts at about 70% of the calls that we're going to take are probably information type calls. We may or may not log them with the potential for it to escalate or get worse.
What are things that would be typical questions?
So maybe the easiest way is to say that the top maybe types of complaints that we get. Number one type of complaint we're going to get is some type of quality of vehicle issue. And they can range in severity from the very serious, where I'm driving home and the engine falls out, to I bought a car 6 months ago and my power windows don't work, right? So that's the most common type of complaint. And then we try and triage those as best we can, offer self-help advice. And then, like I say, in serious situations, we can try and offer sort of a conciliation service directly between the consumer and the dealer to try and help them out.
Other complaints?
It's number two, and it's an easy one at number two. It's Monday mornings around here are very busy with this type of call.
I have a hangover.
Yes.
From my shopping on Saturday.
Exactly right. Yeah, exactly right. So it's a contract cancellation request. Typically, we might lump those into a couple of different categories. One's where, the consumer's really just had a change of heart. And then there's other times where maybe there's some merit to the contract cancellation request. So that's definitely the second most common. And then we still deal with the odd number three. A distant number three would be the odd misrepresentation, whether it's an accident non-disclosure or daily rental non-disclosure.
Are there any dealer beefs that you see, where you call and there are things customers do that drive dealers crazy, that maybe the customer isn't right?
Well, the contract cancellation can be one of those, right? I mean, there's two sides to that coin, and from a dealer's vantage point, they're always going to believe that consumer has taken their price and shopped for a better price somewhere else. And many times we've seen examples of it, it's true. So we are absolutely cognizant that that does happen. Consumers, like dealers, aren't perfect. But for other types of issues, the dealers can sort of sink their teeth into. Sometimes maybe the consumer might have driven the vehicle aggressively or something and caused damage at times like that. So there's definitely two sides to every story. It's important for us to listen to both those sides in an effort to try and understand where each party comes from, if we try and do that kind of conciliation and see if we can find some common ground.
Do you direct consumers to the OMVIC website or OMVIC information if they're looking for stuff? Are there like some special links or screens or applications or parts of the site where really people should go?
So one of the things I'm happy to report is more and more we're getting calls from consumers before they buy cars, which is great. I love it because it's much easier to sort of educate people than try and fix their problems after the fact. There's all kinds of educational tools on our website under our communications team does a fantastic job, whether it's finance information on negative equity and things to avoid, all kinds of videos and things that they can actually go in, look at, and sort of educate themselves. We're in that car buying mode. So there's tons of information. We absolutely point people out to some of that information if they're pre-purchase. And then post-purchase, we have tools for them, certain types of general letters that they might be able to use and not have to draft themselves and things like that.
If I want to know about the reputation of a dealer, are you able to help?
Unfortunately not. So as a regulatory body, we can post things like a conviction or all of that stuff's available on our website. And part of your shopping tools should be just a search of the dealer to ensure that dealership is a registered dealer. And when you do that search, you'll actually see if there are any convictions or anything to be wary of. But we can't, as a regulatory body, we can't rate a dealer or offer that kind of service.
I noticed on your website that you actually offer service in more than just English. It said 150 languages.
That's true. We offer...
How do you do 150 languages?
We have a translation service that we use. So it's through the phone. The phone is still the number one way people contact us. It's a big province, and not everybody's near the head office. And some people want to explain their problem and find it difficult maybe to put it in writing or in an email. So the translation service tool has been great because it allows us to speak to everybody. We have a lot of people from all over the world here at OMVIC. We're lucky to be a very multicultural office, and oftentimes we have staff that might be able to speak directly to people, but where we don't, we use this translation service who offer service in 150 languages. So
what are some of the more common second languages that are,
the most common, I think, is Mandarin and Cantonese. There's some Portuguese sometimes, Russian, Baltic states, things like that. So I think, if memory serves me correctly, I think there was over 20 some odd languages that we used last year, and we hope that it's a tool that people appreciate.
It's a nice outreach. I mean, it makes your service reach into communities that might otherwise not really feel comfortable or be able to call you. New Canadians often don't know who to call. And that makes it easier.
And these are some of the most vulnerable people out there, so we need to be available to them.
Last question. Give us some stats.
Statistics. So like I said earlier, we're probably going to take 30,000 or more calls this year. That doesn't include the emails or the online complaints.
And when you do mediation?
So we mediated probably about 1,200 different files last year. So 1,200 people were able to access our mediation or conciliation service.
That's a lot of back and forth with car dealers and customers.
Yeah, it was. And so year to year, we do anywhere from about $800,000 to $1 million of restitution a year. So that's money in somebody's pocket or a vehicle returned and the money returned. That doesn't include things where we call them redress items, where maybe the dealer did the repair or maybe the dealer did something that we can't necessarily put a monetary value on. So it's that $800 or $1 million of restitution is just one small component of what we do. I wish I could say we're successful every time. We're probably close to the 50-50 mark in terms of getting people to at least saw off on something. Maybe not everybody's happy, but they can live with it and walk away from each other. So we're proud of those kinds of numbers.
Do you think it helps make the dealers better?
I think, yeah.
The fact that they know they might get a call, or after they've had one or two situations, maybe they're more customer facing or focused?
I hope so. I like to think so. And we've certainly seen examples of dealers where we contact them and have a conversation with them and maybe give them some background about how they can do things maybe a little bit differently so they don't repeat these types of things. And we see that kind of stuff work all the time. And the best part is when it doesn't work, we can take this information. It's valuable information for us when people call in, even if we can't help them, because it might mean we can get some information that may lead to some sort of disciplinary action, or even worst case scenario, we don't like to, we don't want to have to take someone's license away, but if it's warranted, we absolutely will.
Well, thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
And remember, if you have questions and you're in Ontario, before or after you buy a car, give Tim's team a call. If you're in British Columbia, Alberta, there are similar services offered by your regulator, either OMVIC or the VSA, that can help you as well. Well, that's all for this week. See you next week on the Lemonade Car Show.
Welcome, everybody. I'm Professor OMVIC, and today is extra special because we're going to help our friend Timmy with his negative equity problem caused by long-term car loans. Remember the plan? Good. He should be arriving any...
Sorry I'm late. I thought I had more time.
On your loan?
Mom? What are you doing here?
We're all here for you, Timmy. We need to discuss your long-term car loans and the negative equity they've caused.
Face it, Timmy! You're a monthly payment junkie!
That's right, Timmy. You're addicted to buying cars based on the low payments offered by extended term loans.
You bought a new car 3 years ago. How long was that loan for?
96 months.
8 years?
And you traded that one in for a new one?
So?
So, you owned the car you traded in for less than 3 years, but you financed it for 8. How much was left owing on the loan when you traded it in?
$22,000.
And what was the trade-in value?
$15,000.
Wouldn't that mean you still owe like $7,000?
Yes, it does. That's what negative equity is. Timmy owed $7,000 more for his car than it was worth.
So what happened to the $7,000?
It was added to my new car loan.
So you have a $37,000 loan for a $30,000 car.
And how long's the loan for your new car?
96 months.
So it could happen again.
And every time it does, the negative equity snowballs.
It's tearing me apart to see my beautiful baby boy get bamboozled by car depreciation and high mileage. Your father and I raised you better than this.
Your mother's right, Timmy. We did raise you better.
We? You said... Daddy? You're my daddy?
Search your feelings. You know it to be true.
I remember it all now. I should have thought about my car loan more carefully. Thanks, Dad.
Just remember, when you're considering a car loan, ask yourself, how long do you normally keep a vehicle, and do you usually trade it before paying it off? All right, son. Let's you, your mother, and I go get some beaver tails. Ooh, class dismissed.